Take a deep breath. And see if you can remember the feeling at the end of the last session we had last week. It was in terms of shooting for the stars kind of frequency that came with it, the bigger vision, the perspective of what's possible, what you are, what this is really about, instead of what do we create it to be about, which is always small-minded compared to what it's actually about. It's not a concept that this is the one infinite creator expressing itself and exploring itself. It's not that your human world is real and that's the concept you live up to. It's that that's actually real. This is the concept, the one that you're coming from, or think that you're coming from. There's a beautiful thing that happens upon realization of the absolute, which is, it's really the first and final. It's the first stage, if you will, in one's realization or meditation. The first time, you could put it that way, it's the first time, the first moment you actually really experience the me without anything else. No filters, no reflections, no dilutions, no references, no using consciousness or isness, let alone the world of form as a mirror, but actually knowing, being only me, that which is actually the me. And it's still different from resting as awareness. It's different than recognizing awareness. It's the actual me. The me that comprehends the awareness state, but is itself empty of even the awareness state. When you realize it, you'll know, you'll see that it's the only me that's ever been you. Everything else is still a layer, a sheath in front of it. There's the me, and then there's layer, 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 body, personality, world. So we take away these layers, we pull them out, we pull them out, we pull them out, and then the final stage before the final leap is like there's an awareness with an intuitive knowingness of everythingness, an infused, free, singular isness, awareness, almost like a field, I guess you could say, or a vastness. But it still has atmosphere. It still has manifestation. It's a very thin atmosphere. Like down here, we have dense atmosphere. The higher you go into the stratosphere and so on, it becomes thinner and thinner and thinner. So it's like the difference between the thinnest layer of the atmosphere being awareness, and then the absolute in this analogy, or you, would be the vacuum. And then you're left with me. The realization that there's only I, there's only me. And it's an infinite perfection, devoid of any distortion or creation. And for now, all you can do is imagine it from the conceptual self that you've assumed yourself to be. Like a mirror, like a bouncy platform which is the mind. The mind is like a trampoline. Whatever you point it towards, it will bounce consciousness in that direction over and over again. So by hearing these words, your mind is turning inwards. It's turning back into where it came from. And so attention is being bounced back instead of forward into distraction. It's bounced back within. And then the next stage is, as you're bouncing back from the conceptual self, which is now directing its conceptual mind and attention, forming it to be a trampoline that's pointing backwards, if you will, inwards, back in time, retracing its consciousness. The next step then would be to actually identify. You could say to locate in a way, but without location. But it's like you identify, you hone in on a sense, an intuitive, instinctive feeling of what is being talked about. And that intuitive feeling is kind of like getting the directions to the black hole. First, you're on Earth, you just hear about the black hole. You don't see it anywhere. You just think about it. You imagine it based on the descriptions that you hear. Then once you're convinced and you're pointed in that direction of interest enough, you start looking around for clues. You start identifying directions. What is the direction? What is the way to the black hole? So you start sifting through the people and the things and the places and the directions that you're getting from different people, different folks. And when you feel it, when you feel the directions are correct, someone makes sense, or something makes sense intuitively in your guidance. And you find that instinctive feeling, it is like you found the directions, the roadmap, the pointer, the line that leads you to that black hole that reveals everything else to not be you, leaving only you at the end of that process as infinite, as having never been anything, as having never been part of manifestation at all, as never even being able to be part of manifestation. Even if you try with all your might, you could never. Only manifestation can be manifestation. Only the illusion can be the illusion. Only the not you can be the not you. So when you find that sense intuitively, and you all have this sense, it's that call to come back home. Every portion of the illusion has this intrinsic connection to the one. Every piece of the manifestation has a different blueprint, has a different overall formula that is what describes or defines its different features and forms. But each blueprint has one core component of that programming, of that blueprint, that is the same across the board throughout all densities, illusions, creations, dimensions, incarnations, levels of consciousness, forms. Everything shares one component. No matter how different the blueprint, there is one component of that blueprint that binds them to the eventual realization of the absolute self, beyond even the universal manifestation of love, light, and everythingness. So we all have this instinctively within us. So when it's heard, the truth in you, the blueprint in you recognizes the blueprint in the one or the thing that is pointing or speaking, in this case, this vehicle. Resonance resonates with resonance. The blueprint recognizes the blueprint. The doorway home recognizes the doorway home. So it's the doorway to the absolute within you that's recognizing the pointers towards it. So once you find that intuitive sense, you claim it. You grab hold of it. You let everything else fall by the wayside. Stay concentrated only on this sense. And this leads you deeper in the direction of the black hole. If you do this long and intensely enough, at any given point, no matter what's going on, if you're driving, maybe don't do this right now. The more you lock onto that sense, the closer it gets you because you're following the directions. That's what staying concentrated on this instinctive knowing is like just following the directions, step by step by step. And every time you let go of a distraction that attempted to put you off track, every time you ignore those distractions and concentrate even more brightly, vividly, and lovingly, and eagerly, and ambitiously on this instinctive sense of the absolute, it is like you've completed another step in the list of directions and you're getting closer to your target. You can now begin to almost see the destination. You know you're in the neighborhood. Stay true. You stay true. Only that sense matters. Every other sensation or idea is allowed to drop off of your radar. And you're cleansing yourself and readying yourself to fit through the eye of the needle, to the emptiness where nothing can be brought with. On the other end of which, there is the full glory of you, which ironically is you now. You already are in front of creation. Creation is already appearing in front of you, to you, all this time. Awareness, love, light, isness, form, manifestation, other people. It's always been in front of you. It's never been a part of you. It's never touched you. It's never been real. It's never been substantial. To you, the pure actual me. And perhaps you can begin to sense the difference between creation and the creator in its most absolute formlessness. And it's actually a very beautiful, natural, simple process that, when done with enough curiosity, doesn't require too much letting go, because it naturally takes you on a heightened sense of freedom, lucidity. So it is like you're waking up from the dream of attachment and affliction, and polarity and duality. And as you begin to feel that surge, that pull, that stream moving towards the waterfall, sure, there can be responses of scary, but really if you let go of these two, just gradually, little step by step, the joy that begins to take over and the promise that you start to sense makes you giddy and excited for something that's quite unlike any other experience you've ever had. And you can start to feel this vibration. And as you become one with that sensation, with that desire, it's not difficult to let go. Because the experience, or the promise of freedom beyond experience, really, once it's bright enough for you to sense it, to be infused with its fragrance, if you will, even though it's formless and qualityless, the fragrance of formlessness and qualitylessness. It has its own fragrance inside the illusion, its own scent, its own trekking mechanism, its own feeling of the promise of liberation, of sorts, of homecoming, of release, of absolute, final, and total release, of all tension, of being location bound, separation bound, even individuation bound. And when this desire, this stream begins to make itself known, the desire for that or more of that, the joy of that will naturally replace the anxiety self from which you would be attached to begin with. So it's a very loving, if you do this gradually, which I recommend for most people, if you just gradually explore the threshold, explore this instinctive sense at your own pacing, a little bit more every day or every week or once a month even, and you just go a little bit deeper into that mystery, the curiosity for that infinity, and you learn to stay more and more concentrated on it. Within, free of form, more and more. There's a certain joy or a stream that activates that replaces your fears. Whereas if you're trying to force yourself in that direction, then there is much more of a probability of freaking out or getting scared or avoiding or coming up with ideas or reactions. But if you just gradually, gently practice staying concentrated on the scent of the eternal promise of final absolute liberation from all of manifestation, from all perspectives, from all biased points of view, from all senses of location. If you continue each day to drop into that sense a little bit more, then there will come a day when it's no longer scary to you, but is actually the next most logical step, the next most exciting, natural, gentle thing. In this way, you soften the blow of the contrast between creation and non-creation. You get used to the scent of it, the fragrance of the qualityless, absolute, infinite perfection beyond isness. And again, do this at your own pacing. Honor the fact that for lifetimes, you've believed in the not self to be the self. Even your belief in God will disappear at this threshold. Even your dependence on God begins to be revealed as illusory at this stage. So it is literally like an unplugging from the entirety, the allness, the wholeness of creation itself. And this takes some easing into for most people, and I actually recommend that. Because if you have too many dependencies on form, on objects, it's okay to have a few, but if you have too many, or they're too tight, they're too dense, you're too wound up around these objects, then it's too abrupt of a leap to try to force upon yourself, so don't. Instead, take the loving, gentle, safer, if you will, route of gradually, every week or so, tuning into this a little bit more and seeing how far you actually want to go that week. How far do you feel comfortable approaching? How close are you willing to now approach the black hole, the event horizon? Every week you take your spaceship of consciousness, of the sense of I am, a little bit closer to the event horizon. And you see, oh, actually the spaceship, it doesn't crack under the pressure. It's okay. There's no cracks in the windshield. I'm okay. I still exist. Nothing was taken from me. All is well, as it should be. All is safe. And so the next week, when you try a meditation like this again, you remember where you left off. A marker in space at a certain distance away from the event horizon. And you pick back up, you navigate again to that same level of focus and subtlety. And then see if you are at that level, at that stage, at that particular timing, feeling a genuine interest or excitement or pull to be curious for a little bit more of that infinite sense, the absolute. And if you are, you just go a little bit closer, you let go a little bit more. And at any point, you can pause. You can put the brakes on. And then in your downtime, when you're coming out of your meditation, and perhaps for a week or so, you're not attempting this meditation. You allow yourself to see all the attachments that were brought up when you proceeded to move closer into the infinite absolute beyond the world. What were some of the things that scared you? Or rather, what were your anchors and attachments to particular forms that produced the misaligned perspective of lack, hence the feeling, the emotional guidance of fear? You must have projected that you will lack something at the end of the black hole, be it creation, be it God, be it higher self, be it the soul's journey, be it your partner or your children or your neighbors or your social status or how well you're doing in your career. Whatever came up, don't judge it. Just see it as the silly notion of a mind that's steeped in the not self as self, in misidentification, and thus then produces over time attachments to the not self as if it is the self. And yes, going through the black hole will not allow you to bring anything with you. But it is a silly, not to be judged, but it is a silly, a funny, a hilarious concept for the absolute to believe itself to be a non-existent manifestation inside of a sea of diversity and duality, and then to be afraid to remember itself fully as the infinite, all-comprehensive, all-possible absolute. Just begin to see how silly it is to be afraid of what you currently already are. There's no difference between going through the black hole or not going through the black hole. Already, what you'll find at the other end of the black hole when creation suddenly disappears, the infinity that remains, where there's only me, without any reference for the me to know itself by or through or in relationship to, just me. The me and me alone, the infinite absolute me alone, knowing itself without aids, without crutches, without assistance, without reflections, without a mirror. It just is only me, fully realized in its infinity. That is what you'll find when you pass through that gate, if you will. When you see the difference between creation and even the creator aspect of the infinite, the God aspect, the free agency aspect, the intelligence aspect, the mover of vibrations. And you, the you before that. That's so much simpler, yet so much more empty even than empty awareness. So much more free and not a thing than even awareness emptiness is not a thing. That is you now. It's the me that is looking at the awareness, that is looking at the mind, that is looking at the sensations of your meditation. You're what's looking at what's looking at what's looking. Already, you see, you're not going to discover anything new. Not mechanically speaking. It'll be new to your mind, to your consciousness. But it won't actually be you, new to you. It'll just be you. Take a deep breath. Know that you can practice this at any time you like, at your own pacing, your own timing, whenever you feel the inspiration. There's no have to. And even reminding yourself conceptually of this, let alone instinctually, you'll feel such a different frequency or fragrance enter your experience. There's much less world focus. All your problems suddenly seem kind of irrelevant. What you thought was important doesn't even appear on your radar anymore. So you've upgraded yourself, also inside of the not self. So wonderful. Take a deep breath and notice the body. Notice my appearance inside of your appearance.